Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. Taking a break from looking at the brand new cards from Super Slam for some of those decks that are getting expansion slot cards. A new ban list is upon us, hitting all of the assassins, hitting Gravy Bones, and also Marlin, sadly. But that's okay, she has a build without all the tipples. We have a hero that's coming back as, yes, he did lose a card in Plume, but he never played it. He's getting his card back, his specialization, Germinate, and he might actually be playable again. I'm talking, of course, about Florian Rotwood Harbinger. Before High Seas, Florian was looking to be a pretty good deck. He was one of the more popular decks at all of the events. And that was before the double combo by LSS literally took him out back, where they banned Germinate, his main late game win condition. Florian has one of the best late games in all of Flesh and Blood because of Germinate. And release Gravy Bones, which is not a good matchup as Florian is pretty much a Guardian. The reason for the first one was because of this card, Everbloom Life, which can recycle the Germinates, making Florian's late game even better, which is what they were scared of. But of course, since Florian is not very good right now because of Gravy Bones, they decided to bring it back. Literally, he had a full 180. He went from like a top 3 most played hero to literally 0 in any event. It was actually crazy. So now that Florian has Germinate back, can he keep up with the rest of the format? Can his defensive Guardian style make the Runeblade class not the most broken class in the entire game of Flesh and Blood? Let's see. Starting with Florian's hero ability. Florian is an elemental Runeblade with the Essence of Earth ability, allowing him to play Earth cards in his deck, which means he can play Earth Runeblade, Earth Elemental Runeblade, Elemental, Guardian, normal Rune, or not Guardian. I wish you could play Guardian. Uh, Runeblade, generic, all that stuff. Like his, I don't know how to describe it. Like the other Earth hero inside of Rosetta, both heroes have an ability that triggers, or not triggers, but it activates once you have a certain amount of Earth cards in your Banish Zone. Both heroes needing 8 for the Classic Constructed format. So when there are 8 or more Earth cards in your Banish Zone, Florian gains the ability, if you would create 1 or more Aura tokens, instead create that many plus 1. Which means, if you make a Rune Chant, you make 2. If you make an Embodiment of Earth, you make 2. And if you make a Might token, you make 2. Really nice. This is mainly why Florian is so strong late, as you make double the amount of Rune Chants. Florian has really good turns of block with 3 cards, use Grasp to make 2 Rune Chants because of Florian's ability, and then send 3/1/1 with his Reaping Blade. As well as he has really nice block on his armor, as he has 6 health from Grasp of the Arcanine and Barkskin, Disruption in Face Purgatory, and extra prevention in the Well Grounded, but we'll talk about those in a little bit. It can be hard to get the Earth cards in the Banish Zone, which is sort of how these Earth heroes were designed, where they're all meant to be really late game. But thankfully, Decomposed cards are kind of broken, so you will just get them at some point in the game. So I do really like Florian's ability. However, in the current meta, he's not the best. Now with Germinate back, he might have some time to shine, especially with Gravy being a little worse, but it will take some time to see. Moving on, let's talk about the equipment we are playing inside of Florian. Reaping Blade is going to be our main weapon of choice. However, we are on Dread Scythe for some matchups. We'll talk about that later. Reaping Blade is just a 1/4/3 with the simple effect of heroes that have more life than any other hero can't gain life. So if you're playing a really close game, life gain effects won't really do all that much. That's not the most important effect. In fact, any matchup that is a life gain deck, we are most likely playing Dread Scythe now. This would be better if Counter Blessing is still in the game, but it's not. So Reaping Blade is pretty nice. For the rest of the equipment, Face Purgatory also came out in Rosetta. This is their disruptive helmet. When it defends together with an action or an attack action and a non-attack action, the attacking hero discards a card and you draw a card. So you get 1 card back. You're still down a card, but you made them discard a card, so it makes you go net even. Good way to beat up against aggro decks, as well as when you're blocking with this, you're generally going to be blocking for 8, so you're going to block all the big stuff. You can even get rid of opponents' pummels if you're playing at something like Guardian. That would be playing pummel. For our chest piece, we were playing Barkskin of the Millennium Tree. This is a 2-block Temper Earth chest with an on defend of if there are 4 more Earth cards in your banished zone, you make an embodiment of Earth. Of course, if you do this late, Florian will double it, which means your non-attack actions that block 3 will instead block 5, which is really good. Of course, it's mainly here to block 4 6s alongside a 3-block non-attack action. And late game, it'll probably also block 6 again, because you'll probably have Florian online at that point, which means you can really save your arsenals from things like synergies or just any other big 2 for 6. For our gloves, we were playing Grasp of the Arknight. This is just because it is repeatable rune chant generation. We're not really the deck to stack up a bunch of rune chants. Whenever we're actually activating Grasp of the Arknight, we are using the Reaping Blade right after by pitching 1 blue, as it's a very strong 1-card hand, since it offers both physical and arcane damage. So Grasp of the Arknight is just a tool that Florian will play probably forever. And then finally, for our shoe option, we are playing Well Grounded. Spellbound Creepers doesn't really do much for the deck, so Well Grounded is a nice way to get some extra health. This one requires you to have 4 or more Earth cards in your Banish Zone, but at instant speed prevents 2 from the next time you would be taking damage, which is really nice. Moving on to the main board of the deck, we have a 54-card main board, which means we are adding 6 every game, technically, though we will end up cutting Rootbound Carapace if we ever play against Kano specifically, but I'm not going to really tell you that. You can probably figure that out when you figure out what Kano does. For the attacks, we're playing a good amount. Command and Conquer is the first attack here. Obviously, this card is very powerful. If you don't play it, you can replace it with any other 2 for 6 you want, except Erase Face, because Erase Face is already in this deck's sideboard. Weakest Link, I think, is fine this format. There are still a lot of decks that play cards that have no printed block value. You can even play, honestly, Wreck Havoc isn't too bad. You could play any of the 3 for 7s. Battlefront, Bastion, Blanche are pretty good right now. So if you don't in CNC, don't worry. 3 copies of Enlightened Strike, as it's a way to go a little wider. We do play other go wide effects in the main board. We do play even more for Gravy, but just the fact that this is a very versatile card and this is a defensive deck makes you strike really good. Felling of the Crown is one of our main disruptive options. This is a 3 for 4 in Earth with 3 block. That makes it so if there are 4 more Earth cards in our Banished Zone, it gets +4, which means it's a 3 for 8, which is very powerful. And it has Decompose. This is how we're going to be getting all of our Earth cards in our Banished Zone. When you decompose, you may banish 2 Earth cards and an action from your graveyard. You can make that action an Earth card, which is really important to getting an early Florian online, since you can, with 2 decomposes, banish an extra Earth card to get 3, so 6 total, and then the next decompose, no matter what, will give you 8. If you do decompose, each hero puts a card from their hand on the bottom of their deck. Really good when you have a 2-card hand, as a pitch of blue into this will not make you put a card on the bottom, which means your opponent's just losing a card. Very similar with Plow Under if we skip ahead, which is a 2 for 2, but gets +4, so it's a 2 for 6. And it has both heroes put their arsenal on the bottom. So this one's really good if you just like block with your arsenal, maybe if it's like a defense reaction, or played your arsenal card into this, as you won't have the bottom of your arsenal, and then you can immediately arsenal a card after if you had an extra card in hand. Both of these effects, I think, need to be at 3. They're Earth, they block 3, they do everything the deck wants. 3 copies of Rune Rager Swarm Red and 3 copies of Swarming Gloom Veil, just as some good go again. We can easily make auras thanks to the Grasp of the Arknight, so these two having go again is very easy. We also do play a few other auras in the deck, but those aren't really realistically what's giving these the go again. Rune Rager Swarm is just if you made her played an aura, it gets go again, and it blocks 3, which is really nice. Swarming Gloom Veil is a little more complicated. It has that same first effect, but also gets +1 if we made 2, which we easily do once Florian's online. And at 3 on hit of hero, it makes it so they can't prevent any arcane damage this turn, but there isn't going to be much arcane damage after the Swarming Gloom Veil anyway if we made 3 auras. The last notable attack in the deck realistically, because there are 2 more or 3 more, but you're never really playing them. I guess you are playing 1, but no, you're not. Is 2 copies of Red Summer's Fall. You could play any of the other red decompose effects. I would prefer the one that gives +2, but this is something that is getting better and better as the sets go on. This set, there is a fair amount of auras from decks like possibly the Mirror. Against a deck like Acilio, they can't bounce their Sigil, even though you are giving them effect that's still, good to get it out of the way. They're going to get the effect anyway. Against a lot of the Guardian Brutes and Warriors, they make a lot of tokens. Against the Draconic heroes, you can get rid of fealty, especially Fang, where he needs 3 fealty exactly. Or more, at least 3 fealty, not 3 exactly, but he wants 3 as early as possible. This can put him behind. And going into next set, there's a lot more auras coming around, so I think Summer's Fall is generally just going to be the last decompose option you want. We are only on 3 copies of Rootbound Carapace, the 3 reds. You could play the yellows, but I would prefer the more attacks than more D-reacts, because we are on a lot of defensive options in our sideboard already. The last few attacks in the deck are pretty basic ones. Autumn Touch is a blank 3-block blue earth card. That's why it's here. Fruits of the Forest is a 2-block blue earth card, but we can discard it to gain 2 life, which means we can put it in our graveyard without blocking. For our decompose effects, be careful not to discard it with Reaping Blade when you have more life than your opponent. And 3 copies of Dread Triptych. There are no more 3-block earth cards other than the ones we're playing. We have all 3 in the deck that are blue. But Dread Triptych is a playable blue that isn't the best all the time. We're not looking to play it on every turn. But if it comes up where we have too many blues, Dread Triptych is a good card to play. It has 3 effects. If we played a non-attack action this turn, we make a Rune Chant. If we've dealt arcane damage this turn, we make a Rune Chant. And if it hits, we make a Rune Chant. The on arcane damage comes in after our Rune Chants go off. So if we have Rune Chants and they take 1, you will get a Rune Chant. And it can just generate a bunch of extra enchants. Really nice, really late game once Florian's online, because if we can get a Dread Triptych, all 3 of these will give you an extra rune chant since they're all separate effects. So this can be an easy way to make 6 rune chants in the late game as Florian, which is really good. Probably will be less because they will most likely block the Dread Triptych, but still that's 4 rune chants guaranteed without even doing anything else. Or you just take their whole hand and still make 2. Since we're already in the blues, let's finish up talking about the blues. 3 copies of Germinates. This is a card that recently came off the ban list, so I'm going to fully read it. This is a blue 3-block Earth Runeblade action, I believe the only Earth Runeblade action. It costs double X, and it has you create a rune chant or an embodiment of Earth, and then you repeat that process X more times. So if you pay 6 resource, X will be 3. You make 4 rune chants or embodiments of Earth. This means, since they're all separate effects, you double it with Florian. That's why his late game is so good. Because if you can get a hand of some amount of resource plus a Germinate, you make so many rune chants and set up to kill your opponent. This also gains you life. So if you are behind, if you decide to take a few hits to keep more cards in your hand, you still gain some of that life back, which is really good. Everbloom Life is the last blue earth block 3. This one was printed in high seas. Of course, we all know life is an instant to gain 1 life. But Everbloom has us put in action with cost less than the total life we've gained this turn on the bottom of our deck. Really good. It is... Hopefully we have less life than the opponent because we can't even play it if we do, because we can't gain the life for life. But if we are lower, which we will be most likely when we can even do, because they're just going to swing into us, we can Everbloom Life, gain the 1 off the life, and then because we can put a 0 cost card on the bottom, put the Germinate on the bottom, which double X would be 0 since it's a modal cost. The last few blues in the deck are pretty simple. Condemned to Slaughter is more aura removal. It's also a block 3 non-attack action, which is really nice. Canopy Shelter gives us some extra might tokens. Since this is from the Terra Armory deck, if you don't have Canopy Shelter, because not everyone does, you can replace this with any either Earth Blue, so you have more Earth cards to banish off Decompose, or any other blue non-attack action. I think Grasp of the Arknight, or not Grasp of the Arknight, the 2-cost 3-block that makes a rune chant and gives your next Runeblade attack more power, I would play that one. I think Oath of the Arknight. I would play Oath of the Arknight over Canopy Shelter. But if you wanted more Earth, you can play any of the Earth Blue Decompose attacks. Most likely the +2 one, because I don't think you need more than 5 aura removal if you didn't in the Canopy Shelters. And then finally, 3 copies of Trot Along. This card's a card I've seen in a lot of lists. It gives your next attack with 3 or less base power Go Again, which means it can give Go Again to the Gloomveil and the Swarming, but that doesn't matter. Or the Rune Rager and the Swarming, but that doesn't matter. Mainly what it's going to be for is it can give Go Again to your Plowunder, so you can take a longer turn while still disrupting their arsenal early. And it gives Go Again to your Reaping Blade. So you can start with Reaping Blade, try to get cards out of their hand, then continue with a big attack like a Felling of the Crown. Something like that makes Trot Along pretty useful. If you don't use it that way, it's still a blue 3-block. So, and it's an attack action, so it benefits from Embodiments of Earth. So that's why Trot Along is in the deck. Rounding out the main board, we've been talking for a while. Let's just finish it up. We play 3 D-Reacts main board, and that is the Rootbound Carapace. This will be in the deck every game except against Kano. Normally, I put my D-Reacts in the sideboard because you don't need them every game, but this card is one you do as it has Decompose on it. We are not playing the yellows. Some lists play the yellow. If blue count wasn't an issue, you could play the yellows over the Canopy Shelters, but I think you want 3-block or blue Earth cards, not specifically 3-block blue Earth cards, because we are playing 2 copies each of Channel Mount Heroic and Channel the Millennium Tree. Of course, channels stay in play if you have a certain number of cards of their type in your pitch zone. So we'll be reading the main effects. Channel the Millennium Tree on enter and at the beginning of your action phase has you amp 3, which means your first rune chant is going to do more damage. This card is really nice late game as it can force through damage, as most people will just bring 1 Arcane Barrier against Runeblade. Also the reason why Scepter is banned. Then Channel Mount Heroic is more important when we have games where we are just attacking more. This is better mid-game, as actually getting our opponent's life total down with big numbers is preferred over the Rune Chant chip plan. And we do play a lot of really good go-again attacks in the Gloomveil, the Swarm, the E-Strikes, and we do play good attacks that we do want to hit, like CNC, and really big attacks like Felling of the Crown. So Channel Mount Heroic is a really nice tool for that. Both at 2 copies. Some lists play 3. We do have a 3rd Channel Mount Heroic in the side, but we'll explain that in a little bit. And then the last card in the deck, one that I'm yet to talk about, is Arcane Seeds Life. This is the Everbloom target before Germinate came back. It simply has life, and the Arcane Seeds side is make a rune chant, which means we'll get 4 rune chants if Florian is online. Really nice, a lot of extra damage late game. Can play it early to put Earth cards in your graveyard for Decompose. Just one of the better Earth cards out there, honestly. I guess this is also an Earth Runeblade card, but who cares, man? This is a Runeblade card, realistically. And it has Earth for... It's an Earth card, realistically, not a Runeblade card, but it's still a good card. Finally, let's move on to the deck's inventory, starting with the equipment. We are playing Dyadic Carapace for our Wizard matchup, as well as Norrøn Boots for our Runeblade and Wizard matchup, as we want the 1AB versus Runeblade, and Dyadic Carapace makes us not lose much versus all 3 of the Wizards. Having the Embodiment of Earth isn't really the most important. I guess against Cecilio it could be nice, but I'd rather play 3AB, honestly, against Cecilio, especially if it only takes 2 equipment slots, and we still get blocking health from Dyadic Carapace. Really powerful. We are playing Dreadscythe in this deck. Dreadscythe does cost 3 to attack with, but it does have an innate doing 1 arcane to the defending hero when it swings. And then any hero dealt damage by Dreadscythe can't gain life during their next action phase. This is mainly going to come in versus our Verdance matchup, as Verdance will have to pay the AB and block the Dread Scythe every single turn they want to combo, because if they take a single point of damage from the Dread Scythe, they can't pop any of their potions. They can't do any of it. Of course, now, good luck with that, Verdance, because you're not going to have Plume, but they can still combo you. If Verdance combo becomes not very good, you can cut the Dread Scythe. But also, this card can be pretty nice versus a few other matchups. Not any of the matchups that are meta relevant, but I mean, it's fine. None of the other matchups really gain life, but if any matchup did gain a lot of life, this would be a good card. You're playing it just for Verdance, though, because Verdance can be a little scary. And also, Verdance will matter more next set because of a new card. So, I would still play Dread Scythe in my list. If you didn't want to play Dread Scythe, you can play, honestly, anything else. It doesn't really matter. Maybe a Midas Touch or like an Arcane Compliance if you want. Then, for the rest of the inventory, we got some defensive options. Haunting Rendition and Shelter from the Storm are our main blocking defense options. If you don't own Shelter from the Storm, you can play Sink Below. However, Shelter from the Storm in this list is a little more important, as it is for mainly our Assassin and Cinder matchups, as they are increasing damage they deal by 1. They're flicking over 1 damage, so Shelter can help prevent it. That's why Shelter is over Sink in this list at 3 copies. Haunting Rendition is a good versatile card. This can be either to prevent of any type of damage and also makes us a rune chant if we prevent damage that way. Very nice. Or it's just a block for good as a breakpoint block. Either way, this card's very powerful. It's not in the main board because we want room for other things in some matchups, but it can be a way to help generate extra rune chants to close out a game while protecting our life total. For some big attacks, we are playing Erase Face, as I think it's the best 2 for 6 in this meta right now. There are a lot of cards that care about class and talent. If you didn't want to play Erase Face, you could play Blanche, but we already have 6 cards teched against Gravy Bones, so you'd have to cut something when you want to bring in the Blanche. 3 copies of Runic Reclamation. Very similar reasoning to why we have so much other aura destruction in the deck. There are going to be a lot of auras coming up in the format. Just actually so many, that having an attack like Runic Reclamation is really good. Also better against Prism, as it's another popper we can put in, and it can blow up their auras if they go on the aura plan, which they could do because we are a slow deck. So, good card in Runic Reclamation. The rest of the inventory is cards designated to beating Gravy Bones, as Gravy Bones is one of the reasons why Florian left the meta, why Florian left the meta before. So with that, one of these cards might seem pretty standard to you if you're a Guardian player, but the other one might confuse you. Outed is a 0 for 3 with no block number. If you're marked, you can't play it. If the defending hero is marked, it gets +1. Those don't matter. All it says is go again. This is the only 0 for 3 that has guaranteed go again that you can play in Florian, because there are lightning ones and ninja ones, whatever. And that's good enough, honestly. Against Gravy Bones, we're playing the 3rd Channel Mount Heroic because that makes cards like Outed kill all of the allies, except Whaler, but kill most of the allies. So Outed is pretty damn good. It lets us clear out all the small allies too, since they all have 3-ish health. Yes, they can discard the one thing to stop you, but I mean, that's what that card's designed to do. I don't know what to tell you. You can play Scar for a Scar in this slot if you wanted to, but I really like Outed. As much as I've played Fry into allies, Outed feels pretty nice, honestly. And, of course, it gets the pump from the Channel Mount Heroic as well. So, if you're going face and you have a channel in play, you can just send 6 go again. Of course, we are playing the 3rd Channel Mount Heroic. It's a little easier to set up. It helps us clear out allies in the Gravy matchup. I suppose there are other matchups you could bring in the 3rd Channel Mount Heroic, and that's perfectly fine. We have one in the sideboard. You can easily do that, but mainly I'm bringing this one in against Gravy, as that's sort of how I set up my sideboards. And then 2 copies of Blow for a Blow, just because it's pretty good. If you have less life, it gets go again. And on hit, it does 1 arcane. Or not, sorry, it doesn't do 1 arcane, just 1 damage. So we get 1 through, or kill another ally, whatever it be. Just a good card there as well. But with all of that, that is going to be the end of the video. Not sure what we'll talk about next week. Maybe we'll talk about a deck that was actually hit. Sucks I made an Assassin video a few weeks. Actually, I don't even think I played Bonds in that deck. So maybe not. Maybe I didn't care. I don't actually remember. My memory sucks. But next week, maybe we'll take a look at Gravy with some changes. I think Florian is going to just stay pretty similar to where he was already at. But Gravy is going to change a lot, so I wanted to wait a little bit to see how people were developing Gravy before we talked about Gravy. But with all of that, that is going to be the end of the video. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.